Death and Taxes was developed and published by Placeholder Gameworks in 2020. Regarding its genre, I would place it halfway between a visual novel and a management game, a mixture of Papers, Please and something like Reigns. It's an indie project with a focus on telling an interesting story through the use of an unusual setting. This is one of those games where the story and gameplay are so interconnected that I'm just gonna take a gander at both in the same section. Not because the game is complex or overwhelming, but there are a lot of elements to it that are worth exploring and discussing. So what is this game about, you might be asking? You take control over the literal Grim Reaper, the 53rd to be precise. What happened to the others, I don't know, and you're not gonna get me to snitch. The Grim Reaper, who is actually created by this rather fresh gentleman here, Fate, who's gonna be your boss in the corporate death dealing and soul reaping business. Yeah, you are qualified and were specifically chosen for this role. You are special! This guy went to the store to buy the arcane relics required to summon you in a ritual. Like frickin' lemons, bucko.
Lemon, spice, and human eyes. These were the ingredients chosen to make the perfect little Grim.
Oh wow. The premise is simple. You create your charming skeleton reaper and get to work in the office. Every day there is a certain rule set that you are blessed with, based on which you gotta harvest them fools. After which, Fate checks your progress, comments on it, and you're free to go to bed, to wake up and do the same thing tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after, and the day after. Your task is simple though. Use the guiding letter of instructions to decide whether the person whose document you're clutching in your skelly hands will live or die. Each little application to the afterlife, or the lack thereof, is provided with a short description about the subject, which contains their age, name, and background to an extent. You gotta read and it's up to you. You can use your little marker to tag live or die. That's what you're going to do throughout your 28-day evaluation period. The game masterfully guides you into its routine of filling out pages, visiting Fate, and getting paid based on how well you followed your instructions, sending you back to your room at the end of the day to rest after shuffling papers of people who couldn't, for the love of insert your selected deity, contain themselves and put their own existences into danger because they are dummies. Oh wait, there's something else down here. There is Cerberus's bar, which opens up every weekend, providing ample opportunity to chat with your colleagues from other departments. Like Herbert from the plant department. Because plants have to die as well. They actually have their own forms to fill out. You can down a few drinks and indulge in nice conversations in between stressful days of reapership. The bar itself was added with the Halloween update that came out last November, and it offers a lot of extra lore to the game's world that you can unearth through talking to your colleagues. By chatting about, you sort of gain a vague grasp on how the corporate system of life and death works, with its own little hierarchy that's not something you could just peer into without these guys. They are also engaging characters, and honestly, each and every one of them is wonderfully written, making the act of conversing with them an absolute blast. Especially the plant, and also Sari the bartender, whose energy is so infectious that I just can't describe it.
Hello there, I'm Sari, and I welcome you to Cerberus's Den, the finest drinking establishment this side of the world. I sure as heck haven't seen you before. You must be brand new.
Also Gus, the ghost janitor who never died but is still a ghost and feels utterly miserable because he has to do the dirty deed of cleaning up the drinks that you, a skeleton, lacking any sort of organs that would make the consumption of food or drinks possible, will inadvertently spill on the floor after coating the insides of your skelly body with them. The tone of these conversations and the game itself is rather playful, juxtaposed with the rather grim subject matter creates this really fun and engaging world for you to get to know. Talking to NPCs and learning about the world is really fun and engaging, though that's not something that you can only do in the bar. It is, however, the place that turns your workplace into something more real and tangible. I mean, we're working for a big corporation, so having colleagues seems like something necessary to make the environment feel more real. If I had to kill people in home office, that would have been wild and anxiety-inducing, as my escapism into video game hood hadn't come to fruition due to the uncanny similarities to real life. I like the bar. There is something else down here. It's Mortimer's Emporium, who is a chatty pirate skelly. Who wrote this? who is a chatty pirate skeleton whose emporium serves as a sort of shop to spend your hard-earned, whaling and shape-shifting money on new outfits and little items described as widgets. Also, it's stuff to put on my desk. Okay. A coin that you can play toss-up with if you're unsure what judgment to deliver. A mirror that you can move to your room to look at your beautiful self and change your outfits and such. A lamp? That's odd. It's really bright in here. Why would I need that? A snow globe? Quite an odd one. A little eraser? That's cool, but all the other stuff seems like cool shit to put on your table with varying degrees of usefulness. Also, what am I gonna do with my phone? What's Gawker? Am I just gonna sloppily browse the web and disregard work like I always do IRL? What do you have against waffles, lady? Come on. Oh, wait. Oh. Without spoiling too much of what's happening, I'm just gonna say that death and taxes isn't really what you think it is. And the items in the Emporium are actually worth experimenting with. But that's all I can say just yet. And I think you're grasping what I'm trying to convey at this point. Death and Taxes puts a huge emphasis on choices. Every choice you make can affect how the game will end in ways you would not expect. The mechanics and decisions that can significantly alter events are, however, spoiler territory, as the game relies heavily on you not knowing much upon starting out. I already said and showed you a lot because I wanted to give you a bit of taste as to what will await you. Your first playthrough will serve as an example, a sort of first try to get into how the game's system of decisions will wrap you around itself like a cozy little blanket. The game is rather short and, unless you look up a walkthrough and effectively spoil the entire journey for yourself, your first playthrough won't serve as the definitive experience. Again, it's a kickstart that nudges you into a gameplay approach that lets you familiarize yourself with its mechanics. It wants you to push your options one way or another, which becomes obvious when you look at the amount of endings you can get. So yeah, I'm gonna spoil the main conflict and some shenanigans that can heavily affect your experience. Skip here if you don't want that. Leave and play the game. Go and play it. Come on, play the game instead. It's good. Okay, I guess I can go on now. Ha! Some of you still shouldn't be here. Come on. There we go. Frickin' nerds not wanting to play a game themselves when they should. Okay, let's dive in. I hinted at a variety of things that you can have control over during the game. Here's the thing. You don't have to follow the orders you get. For a first playthrough, the game guides you to do so, as adhering to the rules will result in work well done, which in turn generates enough money to buy all the cool gear in the Emporium. In this case, it's actually a really good mechanical way of easing you into the corporate grind. It does all the cool, instant gratification stuff like other games, but without making you buy a pink gun that shoots piss, while also getting your children hooked on gambling. The objects in the Emporium are necessary if you'd like to unlock the other endings, as there are some parameters that you wouldn't be able to see without these little gadgets. The lamp lets you see certain stats that the death or perseverance of a character would impact. These are ecology, prosperity, health, and peace. Every person has an effect on these stats. Killing a politician, for instance, might tank the prosperity value while improving peace. It's a balancing act, and you have to figure out the effect you're going to cause based on the descriptions you get. How can you tell how humanity is holding up? It's genius, and you can instantly see a big fuck up. The aforementioned 4 stats have an impact on the game's ending, but other factors come into play as well. How you perceive your job and the consequences that come with it is a pivotal aspect which you'll learn by talking to Fate after each day. Fate is an intriguing character as he's the one overseeing your work and the one who you report to. That's why your job is what it is, basically. He has a strong sense of control over your work, which is not something he lets on early on, and his orders and aspirations are going to be carried out by you if you happen to play the game the way it wants you to for the first time. Fate's motivations are relatively simple. He's not content with his current position and aspires to become free, with the only thing holding him back being humankind. He's a slave to the corporate environment just as much as you are. Making sure to maintain the state of equilibrium, the balance of life and death, requires him to eternally observe and play 4D chess with human lives. He slowly grows more jaded and dissatisfied with humanity and orchestrates a plan to destroy them. to set himself free of his duties, also making fun of you in the process if you're just following his orders without a second thought or act of rebellion. He is nihilism incarnate, a supernatural being that's not held back by mortality, but by the concept of having to keep humanity's existence in balance as long as possible. Can we talk about the fact that in this corporate setting, in a department focused on regulating human deaths and lives, the main conflict is caused by your burnt-out boss who's sick of the damn gig? His plan to destroy humanity is basically him neglecting his job, giving you bullshit orders that don't make any sense. He's also really not subtle about it. Even if you're just reaping 9 to 5 without thinking, you'll notice. He wants you to oppose him when his plans cannot be ruined anymore. If you do become aware and conscious about how you didn't actually think through all the deaths you caused, or how you saved the wrong people, you can try and oppose him, but it will result in utter catastrophe and you getting fired. You can remain a drone, a cog in the machine that keeps destroying without a care in the world, or go against him. Out of these two, the second option ended up being my go-to, as I was going with the flow of the game and wasn't careful enough. That's when, after ruining the entire planet and getting the worst ending possible, Mortimer gives you a chance to try again in New Game Plus, with all your widgets you bought before. This is when the game opened up mechanically for me. I wasn't just a damn servant anymore. I wasn't a cog. I was calling the shots. I kept toying with mechanics and realized how much control I really have in my limited environment. Fate can do fluff against you if you're undermining his attempts slowly in a methodical manner. In the end, I made sure that humanity will prosper, bringing it into a phase of utopia by going against Fate's orders every day, showing them that I am, indeed, better material for corporate leadership. There are a lot of ways you can oppose Fate as well. Which brings me to your consciousness. Your consciousness is basically what it sounds like, a visual representation of your thoughts who you can occasionally converse with while standing in front of the mirror. Her role in all this is to push you to become more of a cutthroat but cautious little corporate con man. She understands how competitive and ruthless the environment can be, and she keeps creating little instances for you to rebel through red documents she puts on the table. After a while though, her attempts stop being small, culminating in, well, listening to my consciousness didn't really result in a better ending. I just became an aggressive and mean little ant that eventually ate the queen. The game has a lot of endings based on what position you end up in, and how the world's shaping up to be due to your little management work. Heck, you can even help Fate go through with his dumb shenanigans if you are such a spiteful little bugger. Death and Taxes also juggles a lot of interesting topics, with the most important being the question of death, and how our actions as humans can be perceived. Since in this game, we can basically be living our lives until a terrible occurrence sends us through the fax machine in the department, after which you just basically end up being put on a desk to see whether you live or die. The game sets up an interesting duality with Fate mentioning how whether we live or die depends on our choices and actions as people, yet someone with a Sharpie has a say over it in this universe. The Reaper decides, and in this context, they can toss a coin up and indeed choose. This whole setup also serves as a means to take a jab at big corporations where one person in charge can single-handedly bring about whatever they feel like increasing the value of meme coins. Fate reeks of nihilism, as he describes the meaninglessness of our existence because he doesn't understand how human ambitions and needs work. He doesn't understand how the thing he was tasked to keep in balance works. His lack of understanding might have also contributed to his burnout, resulting in him not giving a fuck anymore. Instead, he just wants to write stuff, even though it's the extinction of humanity, but I get it. I know how it feels to be utterly burnt out and not wanting to cope with things outside my understanding that are just plain illogical to me. He is a relatable villain, aside from the whole let's bring about the great dying, and serves as an exaggerated and fun, but also interesting look on being burnt out in a life-sucking environment. And also as a cautionary tale of what people in power can be capable of. Death and Taxes also focuses on how you perceive death, and what death means to you as a human being who's having a philosophical discourse with an entity that just can't wrap its head around the arrogance of thinking that you're important. As human beings, making sure that we're creating the best possible circumstances for ourselves is incredibly important. It's basically a modern survival instinct that keeps us focused. There can be multiple reasons why a person is ambitious. Some just want to leave their mark on this world. Some just want to get the most out of their existence, since it's truly uncertain what awaits us after our time has passed. This is a sense of uncertainty that fate cannot and will not understand. It is what makes us fear death and appreciate our lives more, even in the most turbulent times of our lives when it seems like the only possible way out. After all, in this world nothing can be said to be certain, except for death and taxes. According to the developers, the game was created with a death-positive mindset. No, that doesn't mean that it wants you to die. It focuses on getting people to talk about death and about their experiences with it as a means to accept its inevitable nature. It's a much less gloomy take on the concept, which aims to decrease the anxiety and fear towards it, and I gotta say, I can see it as useful and probably healthier than the eternal fear, considering how awkward it is to talk about the concept simply due to whenever it rears its disgusting head out, it results in deeply personal and painful experiences. I was always an advocate for talking about our problems and negative experiences, no matter how small or gigantic they are, since letting them out provides me with opportunities to understand myself more, and others might learn something from my point of view. I can see this benefiting people. Just the simple act of opening up about the subject can get a lot of weight off a person's shoulder, making the acceptance of losing someone easier. Though try and tell my anxious ass not to worry about something inevitable that will just swoop down one day and be like, I'm gonna reap your soul, buddy, and I'm gonna be like, oh no, it's coming, it's close. I think this is another goal that the game just accomplishes with ease. I feel like I learned a lot about how I see death and how I interpret my existence, even though it's something that I think about a lot, and it made me ramble. So I guess, case in point. It approaches death from this goofy corporate perspective, but it never treats it with disrespect. It's a lighthearted experience that offers a critique of the corporate environment, the perspectives of people in power, while also trying to diminish the awkwardness and anxiety surrounding the discussion related to death. I think it was successful in both aspects. We unpacked all this with ease, and hopefully I didn't miss anything, so let's get back to those nerds. Hey, you're back! You missed out on spooky, scary skeleton business. So yeah, Death and Taxes is an intriguing game that tackles a serious subject matter in a way that never feels forced or distasteful, while still being really damn funny. Its story and gameplay can spiral into directions you would not expect, providing you with a short but highly replayable adventure that is tongue-in-cheek and maybe a bit out there, unless you know what a grim fandango is. But it's not just the gameplay and the story that I'm really satisfied with, though. Can we talk about how great this game sounds and looks? I adore the art style of this game. I love the dominant black and white color scheme with the occasional blue, yellow, and red interspersed. Every room and character has a distinct color or set of colors that make them instantly recognizable. Though even without those, their designs make them stand out. Everything has this beautiful, hand-drawn quality that further emphasizes the cartoonish and tongue-in-cheek nature of the setting. There are also a lot of neat little references to different pieces of media, let it be literature, films, games, or music. It's a labor of love with a very distinctive personality and influences. These references never really feel forced either, they are just sort of there and you can completely miss them if you're not paying attention. Something that you're gonna notice for sure though is how great the music is. The instrumentation sports a lot of piano, violin, also saxophone and harmonica. Not the virgin mouth organ type, but the Chad Beefy boy that goes. It goes for a smooth, calming, jazzy sound that works incredibly well. Sometimes it also takes certain corporate music stereotypes like the overly simplified elevator music and puts some more elegant twist on it, so it won't result in you getting sick of hearing it for the 28th time. Honestly, I think it's beautiful and well mixed, transitioning playfully between tracks that are more somber and slow, and pieces that are more upbeat. Also, Mortimer has his own theme, which is basically a sea shanty, which elevates the whole thing even further up. I literally can't think of anything to complain about, really. I like it, looks and sounds pretty dang good, it's charming and unique. It has some gameplay shenanigans that usually don't really get mixed into the sourdough that's the visual novel genre for me. I'm not a huge fan of the genre, but this one is incredibly well written and fun to play through. The intertwined nature of the story and gameplay wonderfully guides you through the intriguing setting that just comes to life, thanks to the extremely charming and competent audiovisual department, which is just full of identity. Even if you're not really a visual novel person, I would recommend this game for you to buy. It's a short, highly replayable game that you can get a lot more out of than you would think. It made me reflect on death and how I perceive my existence and accomplishments as a whole. And I think that's a pretty cool achievement from a game where you're a goofy skeleton with a pen that kills people. Buy it on PC, buy it on Switch. Also, if you bought the Racial Justice and Equality bundle on itch.io, you already own it. Throw some money at the devs though, they are a small business. They will appreciate it. Thank you. This is where the video ends. Consider subscribing and following me on Twitter so I can contribute to you procrastinating when you're supposed to do your job. Also feel free to I don't know, tell me if I was a dumbass and missed something or whatever. I'm just one terribly flawed individual and that's fine. Sometimes you just gotta wing it, you know. Yell your takes into the bottomless pit that's the internet and hope that people won't call you a fumbling, dummy Big Dipper dumbass. Anyways, thanks for watching. Bye!